The following podcast contains bizarre theories, strange facts, and some out-of-this-world opinions. Listener discretion is advised, especially if you trust the government. 1959. 9 elite hikers flee their tent in a blizzard, barefoot, then turn up scattered across the snow with crushed chests, fractured skulls, missing eyes, and a missing tongue, and traces of radiation on their clothes. The Soviet government seals the case, shrugs, and declares the case of death an unknown compelling force. Welcome to Conspiracy Mini-Files.
Conspiracy.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Conspiracy, the podcast where I dive headfirst into the weird, the wild, and the wonderful world of conspiracies. I'm Ash, and I'm your host of Conspiracy. Quick disclaimer, this is a comedy and entertainment podcast. I joke, I rant, and I spiral into tangents, and it's probably not to be taken for gospel. You get the gist. As you can see from the title of today's episode, we're doing our monthly Mini-Files special episode. Usually on the main show we go long, we pull every thread, chase every rabbit hole, but on Mini-Files we sharpen things down. One case, snappy runtime. Don't worry though, it's still chaotic, it's still conspiratorial, it's just in a shorter dose, like a shot of vodka in a snowstorm. And tonight we're going to the Dyatlov Pass incident, a case so chilling, literally, that even the official explanation sounds like a conspiracy theory. Trust me, avalanche, military test, aliens, Yeti, let's find out. And by the way, if you've heard of the Dyatlov before, try saying it out loud right now with me. Dyatlov. If you nailed it, congratulations, you're in the club. If not, don't worry, because even the Russians can't agree how to pronounce it either. Alright, let's dive in. In January 1959, 9 elite ski tourers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, located in Yekaterinburg, Russia, strapped on their packs and headed north into the snowy Ural Mountains. The Ural Mountains are a mountain range that runs north to south through Russia, and Yekaterinburg is a major city in the eastern part of this range. A place so remote you can walk for days and not see another soul. Just trees, wind, and the sound of your own teeth chattering. Their goal was Otorten Mountain, which was a 10 days climb away. It's deep into the Soviet wilderness. They were led by Igor Dyatlov, who was 23 years old at the time, and he was known for just how prepared he always was. He'd built his own gear, once designed a homemade radio, and had the kind of intense, organised energy that either makes you survive the tundra or makes you insufferable on a WhatsApp group chat. The rest of the group were all highly experienced as well, and most of them were in their early 20s. So let's take a look at the other 8 people who went on this journey, and forgive me because I am going to absolutely butcher these names. I have no idea how to pronounce most of them, but I'm going to give them a good go. So first up we've got Zinaida Kolmogorova. She was born on the 12th of January 1937. She was 22 years old. She was known for being tough as nails, athletic, and was also famously known because she kept going on a hike once after being bitten by a viper. Very Russian. Next up we got Lyudmila Dubinina. Definitely butchered that. Lyudmila Dubinina. She was 20. Sharp-witted and sarcastic, known for roasting her friends in her diary. Honestly, she would have been a future stand-up comedian if history hadn't intervened. Next up we got Rustem Slobodin. He was 23, a brilliant athlete, and often the first to volunteer for grueling challenges. Next up we've got 2 Yuris who are best mates, and these names are very difficult, so please bear with me. So we've got the first one, which is Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They were always joking around. Krivonishenko had actually worked previously cleaning up the Krishtim nuclear disaster, at the Mayak plant just 2 years earlier. Yeah, a nuclear disaster. And that's going to matter a little bit later on, so remember that. Then you've got Nikolai Thibault Brignoli. He's 23, an engineering student. He had a French surname, but a Russian heart. Then you've got Alexander Kolevatov. He was 24. He was a nuclear physics student, logical, and was also a little bit quieter than the rest of the group. And finally, Semyon Alexander Zolotaryov. He was the wild card. He was 37 years old, a World War II veteran, covered in strange tattoos, and a last-minute addition to the group. Some say that alone is suspicious, like someone just dropping a random person in last minute to go on a hike that ends in disaster. We'll get to it. Oh, but also there was actually one more, and that was Yuri Yudin. He actually joined them at the start of this trip, but turned back early because he had back pain, which turned out to be the luckiest backache in human history. Imagine you've called in sick and you've ended up dodging the Cold War's weirdest mystery. You would never complain about your back ever again. So let's take a look at the expedition. They set off from the town of Ivdel on January 25th, 1959, one day after my birthday. I wasn't born in 1959, but I'm 24th of Jan. Just so you know, if you ever want to, send me some gifts on my birthday from my listeners. Yeah, 24th of Jan, guys. Get those gifts on the way. Anyway, so on 25th of January 1959, they set off from the town of Ivdel, right? They took a train, then a truck, then they took skis to get into the wilderness. The Ural Mountains are brutal in winter. Whiteout snowstorms, minus 20 degrees. Don't know what that is in American Fahrenheit, but you can do a quick Google. Minus 20 degrees. The winds are so strong it slaps you around like you owe them money. And by the 31st of January, so 6 days later, they made it to the edge of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. In the local Mansi language, that name means dead mountain. Comforting. Very comforting. So the plan had been to cross the pass and camp in the forest on the other side, where there would be shelter for them. But in the blinding snow and poor visibility, the Dyatlov made the call to pitch their tents right there on the open slope of Kholat Syakhl, which turned out to be a very big mistake. So that's where we get to. They've gone into the mountains, they've started this expedition, they've ended up camping in the wrong area because of the snow. They didn't quite get to the trees, so they decided to pitch up their tents on the slope. Right, that's where the expedition ends. So, let's go forward, because the group was supposed to come back by the 12th of February. That was supposed to be wrapped up, done, expedition over, get the fire on, get me a shower. I'm freezing my tits off, but I'm back in Yekaterinburg, right? So, the plan was that on the 12th of February, Igor would send a telegram to their university club to say that they'd made it. So when that message didn't come, no one panicked at first, let's say, because, this was Siberia. A storm could set you back days, and it's not really that much of a big deal. They'll be back in a couple more days. It's fine. But 8 days more go past, and we're now at the 20th of February. Bear in mind, they set off on the 25th of January, and it's now the 20th of February, and they are 8 days late from returning, which they were supposed to return on the 12th of February. So, 20th of February, the families of these people were done waiting. They were like, no, something's wrong. Let's find out what's happened. So, they demanded answers. The university launched a search, sending out their own students and teachers to start skiing the routes in reverse, right? And within days after that, the military joined in as well. So you had helicopters, dogs, soldiers on skis sweeping through the white wilderness. And then on the 26th of February, almost exactly 1 month after they set off, they found it. And they found the tent. It was half collapsed and half buried in snow. And here's the part that gives me chills, no pun intended. But the tent had been slashed open from the inside. Not unzipped, not blown open by wind, but cut with a blade from within. Right. Inside the tent, everything was still neat and orderly. Boots, coats, food, axes, cameras, diaries. It looked like they were about to settle down for the night. It was all perfect. Everything was there. But outside, they noticed that there were footprints leading away from the tent. Slow, calm footprints, barefoot. Some footprints indicated that some of them were in socks. One footprint indicated that it was in a single boot, and that they were heading about 1.5 kilometers down towards the tree line. Already, with that, a lot of shit doesn't make sense, right? Because Siberia in February, it's that kind of cold that will kill you in minutes, right? And these were elite hikers. You don't just stroll out of your tent barefoot in minus 20 degrees unless something terrifying made you do it. Surely. And the slit of the knife that came from the inside of the tent. Like, what was in the tent that they had to cut themselves out of it? So many questions. Let's take a look at what they found after they found the tent. So the search teams, what they did is they followed those footprints, naturally, from the slashed tent, and the searchers pushed down through the snow into the trees. And on the 27th of February, almost 1.5 kilometers away, they found the first two bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They discovered the two Yuris, lying side by side under a tall cedar tree. And the way that they were found was that they were stripped down to their underwear, barefoot, and next to the remains of a small fire. The branches above were snapped as high as 5 meters, and scraps of skin and clothing clung to the bark of the tree. This suggested that they climbed it in a panic, maybe to look for the tent or to get away from something below. And this was the moment when it stopped feeling like a rescue mission and started feeling like a crime scene. And then they discovered between the tree and the tent, spaced out like they'd been trying to crawl back, were Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. All three had died of hypothermia. Slobodin also had a small skull fracture, but it was nothing fatal. He did die from hypothermia. And then it got worse. 2 months later, in May 1959, the last 4 bodies were found in a snow-filled ravine about 75 meters beyond the cedar tree. The bodies were of Zolotaryov, Dubinina, Fibiobrinoli, and Kolevatov. But when they found these bodies, they were actually more dressed. And they actually found that some of the bodies were wearing clothes that had been stripped from the other bodies. But the injuries these 4 sustained were horrific. Fibio Brinol had a massive skull fracture. So he's been hit with something, hit by something, and it's caved in his skull. Zolotaryov and Dubinina had their chests crushed with such force that their ribs snapped into their hearts, yet both of them had almost no external bruising, like they'd been hit by a blast wave rather than something physical. That's important. Dubinina was also missing her tongue, both eyes, and part of her lips. Yep. I don't mean to laugh because that is horrendous, but yeah. Chest crushed, missing tongue, both eyes missing, and parts of a lips. Also, several of their clothes were tested positive for radiation. Just let that sink in, because this is not sounding like a normal hiking accident, for sure. This is sounding like something stopped them mid-life. And just to crank the weirdness to 11, if you didn't think it was already quite weird, here's some other weird details about this incident, right? There are no footprints from anyone else ever found. No signs of animals, attackers, or outsiders, just the group's footprints. Then, locals in the area reported orange fireballs in the sky around that same time. Witnesses at the funerals of these hikers said that their skin looked orange, almost sunburnt. And the Soviet government classified the case files for decades. And yet, they wrote the official cause of death as an unknown compelling force. Right. Surely that's not a cause of death. An unknown compelling force, cause of death. It's almost like COVID, isn't it? Unknown virus, cause of death, even though the person never had COVID and didn't die of COVID. But we'll just put the name down so we profit and, make some money as a doctor's surgery. Anyway. But yeah, an unknown compelling force sounds more like a prog rock band, doesn't it? Like, next up on stage, unknown compelling force! Yeah! Rage on! Anyway. So yeah, the Soviet government classified the files, hid them away, but they did finally crack open that vault in the early 1990s. So, they declassified the files in the early 1990s, and researchers expected the full truth, right? I mean, you declassify the files, they're all there, we can all see what happened, right? Well, not quite, as always. All that was there was scraps. Pages from the lead investigator's journal were missing. Whole frames were gone from the hikers' camera films. Radiation tests appeared for just 2 pieces of clothing, with no mention of the others. Even the autopsy files were weirdly inconsistent, like someone had rewritten parts and left out the rest. So, in the end, it actually didn't become a declassification. It just became a redacted jigsaw puzzle. And you can only imagine how the families felt, I guess. You wait 30 more years to open the Cold War's spookiest mystery box, and half the pieces are gone. And the rest just smell like Geiger counters. Like, what? I don't understand why there wasn't more of an inquiry, but I mean, it's Russia, I guess, I don't know. But they did actually reopen the case in 2019. So 60 years later, the Russian Prosecutor General's office sent a new team up there with drones, weather data, and 70 boxes of the original files. And in 2020, they proudly announced the truth of what happened. And they called it avalanche. So what they said is that it was a small snow slab that slid into the tent. The group fled barefoot, got lost, and froze to death. And sure, nice and tidy, little bow. Here you go, Merry Christmas. But it does leave behind everything that makes this story weird, right? What about the radiation, the missing tongue, the crushed ribs, the glowing orbs in the sky? What about the giant Cold War-shaped hole in the case files? They just said, it's solved. Okay, everybody. Case is solved. Everybody go back to work. But all they did was just give the same old answer. Just with a shinier PowerPoint presentation, I guess. So, yeah, you've got 60 years of mystery there. And the big reveal is snow. Yes, it was snow. Avalanche. They died avalanche. Natural selection. Now we move on. Thanks for that, lads. Case closed. Bring in the dancing bears. Like, you know what I mean? Nothing to see here. Everybody go back to business. Take more vodka. Take your mind off Dyatlov. These days, so, in 2025, The slope where they pitched the tent actually has a name, and now it's called the Dyatlov Pass, hence the name of the episode. So there's a stone there now as well, with all 9 of their names carved into it. And every winter, new hikers ski out there, leave flowers in the snow, and wonder what on earth actually happened. The Russian government obviously says it's solved. Most of Russia doesn't buy it. And around the world, this case refuses to die. It's been dissected in books, documentaries, podcasts, like Conspiracy, you name it. But when you stand up there on that silent ridge, just wind, snow, and endless white, it doesn't feel solved. And that's why I wanted to do a mini-files episode on it, because it doesn't feel like we've got to the truth. Avalanche, okay, but what about all the other random details? It feels like there's a secret, you know? Also, you can actually buy now I Survived Dyatlov Pass t-shirts, which, you know, it's a bold claim because technically no one actually did survive Dyatlov Pass, but yeah, if you want to buy a t-shirt, I'm sure you can find that online. Man, I need a merch store. I could be making a killing. In time. Alright, so that's where the official story ends. And if you're listening right now, imagine that you are the investigator, right? You're stood there, tent slashed from the inside, footprints barefoot into the snow, crushed chests, missing tongue, radiation, orange lights. What would you write on the report? A. Avalanche. B. UFO. C. Yeti. Shout it out loud. Extra points if you're in public. But no, seriously, let me know what you think. A, B, or C. What would you put? Avalanche A. B, UFO. C, Yeti. D, put your own theory in there. I don't know. Just let me know in the comments already. Okay? Now shut up. So, let's take a look at the conspiracies, because that's why we're here. Because when you have a government who looks at all of that and goes, unknown compelling force, or unknown compelling force. Yeah, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know what that means, right? It means someone's telling fibs. Someone is lying. Little, dirty, pretty little liars. So, together, me, you, me, let's do what the Soviet investigators did not. Let's look at what might have really happened. Right, so let's take a look at the avalanche theory. It's what they want you to believe. The official line, the one the Russian prosecutor's office redeclared in 2020, avalanche. It's the cleanest, tidiest answer. 2 Swiss scientists, Puzrin and Gaum, even ran computer models showing that the slope, combined with drifting snow and katabatic winds, could have created a delayed slab avalanche, which could explain why the tent was slashed open, kind of an urgency thing. Also why they fled barefoot if they were in a panic, and why they ended up scattered. But if you've been paying attention, avalanche crumbles under the details, right? Because the rescue team saw no avalanche debris. The slope is only about 30 degrees, so it's steep enough in theory, but there were no other avalanches recorded there before or after. And avalanche trauma leaves external bruises, lacerations, scraping. These bodies just had internal organs crushed without outside wounds. Oh, and avalanches don't steal tongues. Big one. So, avalanche theory it works. If you squint, turn off your brain a bit and trust the paperwork. But if you're awake, kind of smells like a cover-up. And also, if snow has evolved to eat tongues, I'm never going snowboarding again. Count me out. just when I started to enjoy the cold and the snow, I do research on the Dyatlov Pass. Damn it. I ruin things for myself. I'm just joking. I love snowboarding and I can't wait to go. Anyway, so the next theory we're going to take a look at is the military tests theory, right? The Cold War ghost in the snow. This one actually kind of fits, to be fair. So the Urals weren't just empty mountains. They were surrounded by Soviet test zones. This was 1959, remember? The USSR was throwing rockets, mines, parachute bombs, and worse, into the sky and hoping they come down on the right bit of map, if you get what I'm saying. Locals reported orange fireballs streaking across the sky around the same time, as I mentioned earlier. And then you've got to take a look at the hikers' radiation-tainted clothing. Could be fallout or dust from Mayak, which was the nuclear facility Krivonoshenko had worked at after the Krishtim disaster in 1957. And what about those blast-like injuries? Crushed ribs, collapsed hearts, skull fractures with no external bruises. It lines up disturbingly well with pressure wave trauma from an explosion. And on top of that, you have the fact that the files were classified for decades. And if you've studied Soviet history, or you know absolutely anything about Soviet history, you know that's exactly how they roll. Disaster happens, deny it, bury the evidence, and rewrite the ending. Yeah. So imagine, a parachute mine test goes wrong. A blast rips through the campsite, sending the group fleeing barefoot into the snow. Some freeze, some crawl back and collapse. 4 of them fall into a ravine, bones shatter from the shockwave. The military arrives, cleans it up, slaps unknown compelling force on the paperwork, and vanishes into the snowstorm. It's brutal, but it kind of fits. You can just hear it now, can't you? Comrade, 9 students have been vaporized. Say it was snow. But comrade, their skin and their clothes are glowing. Well, then say it was just spicy snow. I don't know. Go back, sort it out. Yeah, so it could be. Could have been a military test gone wrong. Our next theory is the KGB theory, and honestly, I hate talking about the KGB because it kind of terrifies me. But they could have had spies in the mountain, right? Why not? They seem to be everywhere in Russia. Like, you do something wrong and KGB's there and they're gonna take you off and do things to you. I love the KGB. You guys are great. Yeah. Don't hurt me. I like what they did in For All Mankind, Apple TV. I like what they've done with the KGB storyline there in the later seasons. I won't say anything just in case you're watching it and I've ruined it, but very good the way that they've done that. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, KGB, love you guys. Well, let's just take a look at the theory, right? It's just a theory. It's comedy. It's entertainment. No need to kill me. I'm all good. Just comedy, okay? So let's take a look at the espionage theory. So this could explain the bizarre behavior. Some believe the Dyatlov group weren't just hikers, they were couriers, quietly ferrying samples or tech under the guise of a ski expedition. Right? And at the center of this theory is Semyon Zolotaryov, who was the 37-year-old World War II veteran. So as I mentioned earlier in the episode, but just to recap, he was covered in cryptic tattoos and joined the group last minute. And he was older than everyone else by like more than a decade. So that already kind of sounds a little bit suspicious, no? So maybe they met someone out there. Maybe they saw something that they weren't supposed to see. And maybe someone made sure that none of them came back to tell the story. And you know, the Soviets, they have zero hesitation about removing loose ends. And what better way to do it than make it look like nature killed them, not the KGB? Could be. It's a very interesting... It's something that you'd see on Netflix, isn't it? and something I'd watch on Netflix for sure. But let's move on from the KGB because, again, don't want to die, guys. So let's talk about one of my favourite theories, as always, and the one I secretly love the most, aliens. So we have to talk about it because the glowing orange things in the sky, right? Multiple locals reported them glowing orange orbs in the sky. And when they looked at the hikers' cameras footage, they captured streaks of light on the film coming from the sky. Their clothes were radioactive. Their injuries, like they'd been hit with some kind of directed energy wave. Does sound wild until you line the dots up. The Soviet Union, obviously, would never admit contact with aliens, right? So they just labelled it as an unknown compelling force and just call it a day. But even unknown compelling force, UCF, that just is that a UFO? Is that just a bad translation? I don't know, but an unknown compelling force, that sounds alien to me. That sounds like we don't know what happened, but it came from a force that's unknown, but we don't know how to describe it, so we're just going to say that rather than say little green men. I mean, I could be convinced that something dodgy happened up there with some... Because also, you're in like this mountain range in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, and could be where aliens are. Because what if 9 humans did get vaporized by a passing science project from Alpha Centauri? Greetings, Earth hikers. Please remain calm. Also, hand over your tongues. I don't know why the aliens kind of sound Russian, but they probably be more scared of Russian than aliens. Like, blah, 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 blah. The Russian's like, hey, you want to die? So, yeah, anyway, I could spend hours talking about aliens, so let's move on to the infrared sound. No, it's not the infrared sound, it's the infrasound theory. Infrasound, that is a brand new word to me. I instantly read it as infrared, showing my age. So the the infrasound. That's a weird word to say. Like, doesn't come naturally out of my mouth. Infrasound. Okay. Basically, it's the wind makes you mad. in simple terms. This one's kind of the science theory, but still kind of spooky. So author Donny Ikar proposed that the wind that night created a rare Kármán vortex street, which is basically an invisible low-frequency vibration, which sounds sick. Like, that sounds amazing. And it's called infrasound, and it can mess you up. Dizziness, dread, nausea, sheer panic. It's like how I feel when I'm on my way to the gym. Like, no, don't take me again. My muscles can't handle it no more. But essentially, it's very interesting because the hikers, they might have felt terror that they couldn't actually explain. So they started to panic, slash the tent. You fled barefoot into the night and then you freeze to death and you fall over and you're just in this state of craziness. I don't know, and you don't know how to explain it because no one else can explain it either because it's infrasound, because it's just been made up by fucking Donny Ikar. But it doesn't explain radiation, missing eyes, or crushed chests. So it might be part of the puzzle, but I don't think it's the whole picture. Yeah, I don't know. I think Donny Ikar, he might be stretching with his Kármán vortex street. He's basically saying that the mountain just hit him with a bass drop so powerful it made him undress and go freeze to death. I don't know if Skrillex would be proud of that one, but... And also we have to take a look at the wild cards. Wild cards? No, it's not at all, is it? What are they called? Why is that in my... Where's that come from? Wild cards. Wild cards. It's from like a music film. Oh, wild cards, wildcats. Okay. It's High School Musical, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, the wild cards. There's also the Yeti theory, which is, yeah, Yeti, Bigfoot, the big white thing, the thing from Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, when Luke Skywalker is trapped with the big white thing and he uses the Force and grabs his little lightsaber and strikes down that little Yeti or big Yeti. May the Force be with you, Luke. Anyway, well, we're talking about Yetis. Yes, Yetis. The Yeti theory. So this is based on a blurry photo from their camera showing a tall figure in the trees, guys. On camera. No wonder they classified the damn files. But the idea is that there's this big Yeti thing living in the mountains, and it's come and killed him, I guess. Don't know how that explains the slashing of the tent, unless the Yeti's like climbed on in, like, "Hey guys, I'm just here to eat you," and they're like, "Get the fuck out of it!" Yeah, could be like the skin on the trees, like maybe the Yeti's like lifted them up against the bark and like scraped them down, and then I don't know, like maybe he's hit the ground so powerful, like a kind of Hulk smash, that it's delivered this shockwave that's crushed the ribs. Could be. Anything is possible. And finally, you've got the idea that the Mansi locals all banded together and killed these hikers. Get off my land. But that kind of was dismissed when the Mansi locals did help the rescue search, and no outsider tracks were found. But maybe it's like one of them, like when something bad happens, or like a kid goes missing or something, and the first person that's asking all the questions, like, "Oh, have you found them? What's gonna happen?" And maybe like they're the ones that have done it. Like they're the first people to join the rescue mission, and they're the ones that have put them in the back of the van with the sweets. Could be that is too close to home. Maybe they were too keen to get involved, but maybe not. I think their Mansi locals are probably nice people, and they did come out and help the rescue search. Let's not take that away from them. Yes, so where does that leave us? You got avalanche. It's what they want you to believe. Military accident. Honestly, kind of fits too well. KGB. If anyone could make 9 people vanish, it would be them. Not saying it is though, love you guys. Aliens. The glowing trousers speak for themselves. Infrasound, the made up word. Maybe the panic, not the death blows. So there's so many options when you think about it with this Dyatlov Pass incident, right? But it's just the unknown compelling force. That's what really does me in, because I'm like, that is just a really weird way to put down as the death. I just don't know what it means, and is it supposed to be that ambiguous? Because it's not an answer, is it? It seems like a cover-up. It seems just like it was just an unknown compelling force. Just put it on, people will just, sweep it under the snow. But, I don't know where I sit with it. I think if I had to put my last tinfoil hat on something and have a bet on this, I'm swaying towards military test gone wrong. Because it was the late 50s, there was lots of tests going on, and it was surrounded by lots of test sites. So maybe just a military test gone wrong, or maybe that World War II veteran has walked them into a military test that the others didn't know that they were going to be a part of. Maybe they just saw something they weren't supposed to see, and the Soviet Union made sure that they just never talked about it. Yeah, I'm siding towards military test gone wrong. And that brings us to the end of our Dyatlov Pass incident episode, and I'm keen to know where you stand. At this point, you probably know which side you're leaning towards, right? So if you are seeing the avalanche angle, fair enough. If you're seeing the military fingerprints, welcome to my club. And if you're riding with aliens, well, we could definitely be friends. And if you picked Yeti, well, you gotta respect it, I guess. That's the kind of chaos energy we endorse on Conspiracy. So let me know in the comments how you feel about the Dyatlov Pass incident and what you think happened to those 9 hikers. If you enjoyed this mini file episode, do me a favour, hit follow wherever you're listening, drop a 5-star review. It helps this show climb faster than a barefoot hiker up a cedar tree, and if you can, share it with a mate who's into mysteries, because that's how we grow this community, guys. And don't forget, on our main show, I want your weird stories. UFOs in the garden, lizard people in the supermarket, your granddad spotting the Pope on a dinosaur. Send it in, because your story could end up on Tinfoil Confessions over on the main show. So please DM me on Instagram or TikTok at Conspiracy, or you can email me conspiracy@gmail.com. And if you do send it in, listen out for future episodes, because your story could be there. So maybe Dyatlov was just snow, maybe it was Soviet testing, maybe it was something far stranger. Either way, someone's lying to us. This was Conspiracy Mini Files, and until next time, keep your tinfoil hats polished, keep questioning everything, and remember, the truth is out there.
Conspiracy. Conspiracy.